Welcome everyone to another podcast of Encyclicals from Dad. My name is Tony Forrest and I'm just a dad, a Catholic dad. My wife and I have been married for almost 30 years and through those 30 years of being married and raising kids, we've learned a thing or two about how to get our family working together, and I would like to share some of those tips with you as we go along. So for this podcast, I want to talk about is not about you. That's the topic of today's podcast. Now, there was a time in the world when we thought that the earth was the center of the universe. That geocentric view of the world is really expected in terms of how human people, how we react to things. We are very much self-centered in many ways. So that geocentric view of the world, it doesn't surprise me that it was that way for many, many years. We have an air of self-importance on everything we do. And many times we ask questions in our lives, questions like, how much money can I make? Can I make more money? How many toys can I have when you're a younger kid? How many cars can I have? Can I get the newest car? How much attention can I get as an individual? How much love can I receive? What's the problem with all of those questions? The problem with all of those questions is that they are conjugated on the first person. I. And if a person lives their life conjugating life in the first person, I'm afraid that they're probably going to experience a fairly a lonely existence, or an existence where they never satisfied because they're always asking for more and expecting more. And I know that we measure success in many ways, but I'm trying to get us to think beyond that. A real success for me is to make the other person more important than you are. When my wife and I first got married, we were talking about, how are we going to live our lives and raise our kids and everything. And one of the things that we talked about was never keeping dibs or track on the work that we did for each other. This whole idea that marriage is 50-50, it's hogwash. It is not. It's 100 and 100%. I love my wife unconditionally, and I'm constantly trying to do things for her. And I never worry that I am doing more things for her than she does for me, because I know that that's not true. And I trust her. And she does the same thing. She loves me unconditionally, and she's always doing things for me without thinking of how is she going to get in return, because that's just not the way we are. Do we argue? Yeah, and usually it's my fault. At least that's what she says. But yeah, that has nothing to do with the love and respect that we feel for each other. I think that if you start keeping track on the work that you do or the efforts that you put, and you expect the other person to do that, that's not a relationship based in love. Now, there is something called agape love, which is the love that you provide to someone, never expecting anything in return. That's kind of like the love that God has for us, that kind of agape love. On John 3:16, we hear it, we see it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believed in him would not perish but have everlasting life. Such love that God feels for us, that he sent his Son to die for our sins. And so much love is there in Jesus that he surrendered to the will of the Father for our sake as well. Now, I don't think that any of us has the strength to do that. Well, many of the saints did, in sacrificing themselves for others. But it is that type of agape love that I am talking about. a love that does not expect anything in return. One of the closest feelings of agape love is the love of brand new parents when they have that baby in their house and the baby cries in the middle of the night and you get up and all the feedings and all the diaper changes and everything. What are you getting in return? Really, you're not getting anything in return. You don't do all those things because you're going to benefit in one way or another. You do that because you love that child unconditionally. And that's the kind of love that we're talking about here. That kind of unconditional love that we should have for one another. Now, that child at the beginning has that unconditional love for you, but as they grow older, sometimes because of their own immaturity and their own fears, then they feel that they need to get things in return for what they do. And they think about, themselves. And usually that's just a sign of immaturity, the immaturity of youth. But hopefully, as they grow older, they'll let go of that and they will provide more of that unconditional love for each other. Wouldn't it be a great world if we all felt that unconditional love for each other and we never kept track of what we have done for each other? Now, I think Paul McCartney put it best on the final verse of the final song on the album Abbey Road when he said, "And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make." Isn't that true? So for your discussion for this week, if you're watching this podcast with your significant other, with your family, I want you to talk about, have you ever experienced unconditional love? Have you ever experienced agape love from someone else? And do you feel that you have provided that unconditional or agape love to someone? Talk about that and discuss that between you and see, between yourselves and see that. Also, for this coming week, I would like you to do something unexpected for someone else. And I don't want you to take credit for it or anything like that. Just do something unexpected. I remember a while back, I don't know if it was Oprah that started this, but there were the random acts of kindness. And I remember being at the Starbucks line, getting ready to pay for my drink. And then, the cashier saying, "Oh, the person in front of you paid for it." Wow, that is so great. And of course, the person in front of me drove off, never expecting me to wave and say thank you or anything. That is such a wonderful feeling. And my wife and I try to do that when we go get a coffee or when we go get a bagel, try to do that for other people. So try to do some random act of kindness when you don't feel the need to be exalted by it or anybody giving you thanks. Try to do it in secrecy, if you will. Okay? So I'm Tony Forrest. These are Encyclicals from Dad, and I hope you have a great rest of your week. God bless you.